So, can you believe it? 2023 is almost over, and for the entire second half of the year, I've done my best to keep my finger on the pulse of all the latest AI news and tools, and then turn around and make videos and share what's been going on with you. I thought since we're at the end of the year, it would be fun to make a recap of all of the most major moments in the world of AI throughout the year. Now, there were literally hundreds, if not thousands of announcements in the AI world for this year, so I can't break them all down one by one. And you might be thinking, hey, you forgot to mention this, or you forgot that tool or this announcement. And yes, there's gonna be some stuff that I missed, but I have a big list of all the AI breakthroughs, and I've narrowed it down to roughly 8 big announcements for you for the year 2023. I also don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'm going to rapid fire break down the entire year for you. Keep in mind that pretty much every single event that I'm going to talk about at some point has been featured in this channel's history, so go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what happened in 2023, starting with April. April feels like the month that Meta really started to get into the game, beginning with their Segment Anything model, or SAM, where you could upload images and have it segment out every aspect of that image so that you can edit, move, and delete things around. And it was a pretty powerful tool that could be implemented in both images and videos. So what this model does is something called segmentation, or the ability to take an image and identify the objects, people, or anything of interest. And it's done by identifying which image pixels belong to which object. And it's super useful for tons of applications where you need to know what's going on, like a self-driving car on the road, identifying other cars, and pedestrians. Now, we all know that prompting is a new skill for communicating with AI, right? But what about promptable segmentation? So, promptable segmentation is a new task that was just introduced by this amazing Segment Anything model by Meta, in which it is able to segment anything following a prompt. I mean, how cool is that, right? In one click, you can segment any object from any photo or video, and it's the first foundation model of its kind, and for this task trained to generate masks for almost any existing object. It's just like ChatGPT, but for segmenting images. And it's a very general model, pretty much trained with every type of image and video with a good understanding of every object. And similarly, it has adaptation capabilities for more complicated objects, like a very specific tool or machine, which means you can help it segment unknown objects through prompts without retraining the model. So if you have a picture with you and your friends, Sam can create sections for each person, making it super easy to do cool things with your photos. The same goes for videos. Imagine recording a video and then using Sam to change things around, like moving objects or even making some things disappear. This tool is handy when you want to be creative with your pictures and videos. Maybe you want to change the background of a photo, or perhaps you wish your pet was sitting on a different chair in your video. Sam makes it all possible, and the best part is anyone can use it as it's open source. Check out the link in the description to try out their free demo. This is super promising for the research community, including myself, and it has tons of applications too. Just look at the results and you can see even more, and even try it yourself using the demo linked below. Meta's announcement of their Segment Anything model was definitely a standout in April, as it brought the power of AI right into our hands. And who knows what Sam and tools like it will bring in the future. And moving on to July, where things started to pick up the pace as Meta goes back to back on our list with their release of Llama 2. And not only did Meta team up with Microsoft to launch this generative AI model, but they also launched it as free for research and commercial use. And this was really the month that we started to see a ramp up of the open source large language models, because a lot of people started to iterate off of what Llama 2 had built. So let me show you the introduction of the paper that they released. It says exactly what you should know. There have been many public releases of pre-trained large language models, such as Bloom, Llama, and Falcon, that match the performance of closed pre-trained competitors like GPT-3. Okay, so that's the first thing, in which there's a big distinction between models that are open sourced, meaning you can download and build your apps upon them, and those that are closed source, where all they give you is a link where you can use their model on their servers, but you can't actually download all the code and build on it yourself. Okay, so they continue. But none of these models are suitable substitutes for closed product large language models such as ChatGPT, BART, and Claude. So just what I said right there. These closed product large language models are heavily fine-tuned to align with human preference, which greatly enhances their usability and safety. And this is the big point here, okay? A lot of the open source models up until now were below average, and there was no fine-tuning on top of them. You might have heard the stories of OpenAI paying thousands of people in third world countries to go over the results and rate them, and then taking that data and feeding it back into the model, right? Well, it turns out that doing that is really damn expensive, and the amazing thing here is that we get a really capable model with Llama, plus we get a variation that has been been optimized by humans, in other words, heavily fine-tuned to align with human preferences. And the two models that Meta, in cooperation with Microsoft, released here are Llama 2 and Llama 2 Chat. Llama 2 Chat being the one that has been feedbacked by humans, okay? So to me, this is the really exciting one, and they come in 3 variations. So in total, we have 6 brand new open source models here. And the variations are 7 billion, 13 billion, and 70 billion. And that's the amount of parameters it was trained upon, 70 billion being the most capable one. So the 70 billion Llama 2 Chat is the one that I personally am the most excited about here. And now this is the punchline. Llama 2 is free for research and commercial use. So you can build your company chatbot on this, and you don't need to pay for the GPT-4 API. You can make it your very own, and you owe them nothing. Look at that. This is the licensing agreement. You're granted a non-exclusive, worldwide, non-transferable, and royalty-free limited license. So again, that is huge because we're getting the power of ChatGPT into our hands and we can build on top of it now. Now moving to the third announcement on the list, which occurred back in September. And this is probably one of the best 7 billion parameter model that I have seen so far. The model we are looking at is called Mistral 7B, and it's released by a startup called Mistral AI as their first foundational model and seems to be based on a different architecture than we have seen before. So the model is just 7 billion parameter small, but is very impressive in its performance for its size. And it currently only supports English and has coding ability, but has a much larger context window compared to models like Llama 2. And because of its size and performance, it's highly optimal for low latency text summarization, classification, text completion, and code completion. So if you look at the announcement, basically they're saying that our teaser model is out, the best 7B, Apache 2.0. So it seems like they have much better models in work. So here are some of its features. This is a foundational model which seems to be based on a completely novel architectures, but even though it's just a 7 billion model, it still outperforms Llama 2 13B and the original Llama 1 34B on many benchmarks. And when it comes to coding, it seems to be on par with the Code Llama 7 billion model while also being really good at English tasks. Now, they are making use of grouped query attention for faster inference and then sliding window attention for longer response sequences at smaller cost. And the good thing is that the company released Mistral under the Apache 2.0 license, which means you can use it for commercial purposes. And according to them, it's way easy to fine-tune on any tasks. And they're actually releasing 2 different models. One is the Mistral 7B base model, and the second one is a fine-tune instruct model. And to top it all up, the performance of this model is very impressive in terms of the benchmarks. And if you look at these results, it actually outperforms all Llama models up to 34B on MMLU tasks. And on other benchmarks, the performance is way equals to the 34 billion model. Now, interestingly, they have not provided any details on how this model was trained or what type of dataset was used. But I do believe that in order to achieve such performance on a such smaller model, and this is just a hypothesis, is that they used a proprietary dataset which is much cleaner than what is currently available. And even though they have not released their own dataset for the base model, they actually fine-tune Mistral 7B on publicly available datasets on Hugging Face. Now, if you look at the performance of this Instruct fine-tune version, it outperforms all the previous 7 billion model, even some of the 13 billion models as well. So it's definitely punching above its weight class and indeed one of the best parameter model in the history of AI, which is of course Mistral 7B. And now this next AI breakthrough was also announced in the month of September of 2023, and this is called Stable Audio by Stability AI. It's the same company that released the art generator called Stable Diffusion and later SDXL. So they're basically a big leader in the AI world, and this is their first AI product for music and sound generation. And it's presented as this professional tool that you can write out of the box, meaning it doesn't need that much tweaking. And the best part is that uses the latest generative AI techniques to deliver fast, higher quality music and sound effects through an easy-to-use web interface. So Stability AI is offering us a basic free version of Stable Audio, which is always nice to see, right? And this can be used to generate and download tracks for up to 45 seconds. And that's definitely useful for short-form content. Let's say TikToks, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts, right? But if we're looking at this from a business perspective or maybe even advertisements, they've also got a pro subscription which can go up to 1.5 minutes or 90-second tracks that are downloadable for commercial projects. So basically, it's like Magic Composer for making music and sounds using computers. But of course, we all know that making music using computers has some challenges along the way. So just imagine you have a computer program that's great at making a 30-second bits of music. That's great, but what if you want to produce whole whole song. Now that's where stable audio comes in. It can make music of any length you want, and not just fixed chunks. How? Well, it looks at the words you give it, the start time, and how long you want the music to be. And if all these details are provided, it then goes to provide the music of your choice. And if you want to check the demo, the links are in the description below. Same goes with the other tools mentioned in this video. So behind the scenes, it uses something called latent diffusion modal, which is just a fancy way of saying it's really good at making music really fast. It even uses a special trick to make sure it doesn't take forever on your computer, which is essentially one of the coolest music generator announced in 2023. And into its technical parts. So there's this part called a variational autoencoder, or VAE, which squeezes the music into a tiny but super powerful code. And it also uses a text encoder that understands words and a UNet-based conditioned diffusion model that helps it put it all together. And for its training, Stability AI used a massive dataset with over 800,000 music files, which is like having a huge library of tunes to learn from. And this dataset adds up to over 19,500 hours worth of audio. Now, Stability AI does have this history of improving their products quite drastically, and my hope is that stable audio will come to empower music enthusiasts and creative professionals to generate new content with the help of AI. And of course, I look forward to the endless innovations it will inspire in the years to come. And moving on to the month of October, where we've been introduced with a very interesting 7 billion parameter model that is able to beat the Llama 270 billion model on the MT benchmark. This model is called Zephyr, and essentially the performance of this model is very impressive for its size. So basically, Zephyr is a fine-tuned version of the Mistral 7B model, which we just talked about earlier. And although the performance of this model is very impressive, that's not the most important thing about it though. Rather, it's how this model was actually trained. So what they did is they did the initial fine-tuning of Mistral 7B on UltraChat dataset, which is basically like a conversation between two different chat GPTs, and the dataset comprises of around 2,000 examples. And after the initial fine-tuning, they did an alignment of the model, but instead of using something like RLHF that OpenAI is using, they used this new technique called direct preference optimization, or DPO. So essentially, they argue that you do not need a reward model in order to do alignment. Now, the DPO seems to be a lot more stable compared to the other techniques that are used for alignments, and it's much more faster, as it just takes only a few hours compared to something like PPO or RLHF that usually takes days to complete. So it took them only 8 hours of training on 16A100 GPUs, or around $500 in order to get these results. So here is how its performance looks like relative to other models. And if you look here, it actually outperforms Llama 2 70B model on coding and extraction, which means it's probably a good candidate for RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, that combines language models with a retrieval system, allowing them to include information from specific documents, enhancing the quality of generated content. Now, in STEM fields, it also beats Llama 2 70B model by a small margin, as well as for humanities, writing, role-playing, and mathematics. Now, Zephyr's efficiency in training, demonstrated by its quick and cost-effective approach, paves the way for faster advancements in AI and ML. Its outperformance in various domains suggests promising applications in retrieval augmented generation, and as we witness such breakthroughs, the trajectory of AI and ML seems poised for accelerated progress and innovation in the future. Now, moving on to the month of November, we have a new model from a new company, which is a foundation model called Yi34B, and it's from a Chinese company called 01.ai, and their model is Yi, which I'm pretty sure it means one in Chinese. So they've basically released two versions of this model. First, they've released a 34 billion, and it's trained on 3 trillion tokens, and they have both a sort of normal version and a version that can go up to 200K context window for this. And the second version, they released the Yi6B model, which is again trained on 3 trillion tokens, and it can go up to 200K for the context windows. Now, I think it's quite consistent now that most of the models with these long context windows, including GPT-4, Turbo, and others, kind of prove that the long context window perhaps doesn't work as well as people had hoped or anticipated for this kind of thing. So, these models are available for you to do research, and they do have the ability for you to get a commercial license for free, but you will need to apply for that license, and they've got some info here where you can apply. If you come on to the Hugging Face page, you can actually have a look at these models and get the details of actually applying for the license in here. I'm pretty sure they've got the links to be able to fill it out in here. So currently, up on Hugging Face, they've uploaded a number of different models. models, including the AI 34 billion chat model. And we can also see like the base model performance. So it's interesting that they're showing benchmarks for the base models, and it seems that they've actually released a supervised fine-tuning or a chat model for this. So this is kind of interesting to look at. So you can definitely see that the stats that they're getting are very good for things like MMLU, for the math and code and stuff like that. So this model can do quite a lot of things already, considering that's just the base version of it. So we're going to be looking at the fine-tuned version of this. So this is the chat model performance in here. And one of the things that's really nice in here is that they actually give the stats not only for the different size models, although so far I haven't seen the 6 billion chat uploaded yet, and I think that could be a very interesting model to play with when it finally does get uploaded. But also, they've given the stats for the 8-bit versions and the 4-bit versions of these models, and you can check those out too. And what's quite nice is that they benchmark this out so we can actually see how it is when you're actually going through it, right? So we can see the chat model 34B is getting better scores for things like MMLU compared to the 70 billion Llama 2 chat model. And it's a very interesting kind of stats in here, and as far as I know, they're one of the first ones to actually go and provide the different 4-bit and 8-bit formats directly, rather than just having someone else do the conversions for this themselves. These benchmarks showcase impressive performance, especially in tasks like MMLU for math and code, and it just hints at a trajectory where AI systems become even more proficient, contributing to transformative breakthroughs across various domains thanks to models like Yi34B. And moving on to the next announcement, still in the month of November, where Stability AI unveiled its latest achievement, Stable Video Diffusion, a foundational model designed for generative video creation, building upon the success of the Stable Diffusion image model. It is now available for research preview, and this innovative tool offers a glimpse into the potential applications of generative video models across various domains. And for those eager to explore, the code for Stable Video Diffusion is accessible on Stability AI's GitHub repository, which you can find in the link below, where you can also find the necessary weights for running the model locally on the Hugging Face page. So this video model is very versatile, and it's easily adaptable for diverse purposes, including multi-view synthesis from a single image with fine-tuning options for multi-view datasets. And essentially, Stability AI plans to expand on this foundational model, introducing a variety of models inspired by the flourishing ecosystem around Stable Diffusion, which is quite interesting. Now, interested individuals can sign up for the waitlist to experience an upcoming web tool featuring a text-to-video interface. And this interactive tool showcases the practical applications of Stable Video Diffusion in sectors such as advertising, education, entertainment, and more. Stable Video Diffusion was also introduced through 2 image-to-video models, capable of generating 14 or 25 frames with customizable frame rates ranging from 3 to 30 frames per second. And in their foundational form, these models have demonstrated excellence in user preference studies, surpassing other leading closed models as confirmed by external evaluations. And while Stability AI actively updates its models and eagerly awaits valuable feedback, it emphasizes that at this stage, its video diffusion is not intended for real-world or commercial applications. The company also emphasized that user insights on safety and quality are crucial in refining this model for its eventual release, aligning with the approach taken for previous releases in new modalities. And with that being said, this model proudly joins Stability AI's diverse suite of open-source models, which includes image, language, audio, 3D, and code generation. This extensive portfolio reflects Stability AI's commitment to enhancing human and artificial intelligence. And for the last big announcement, we got the Mixtral of Experts by Mistral AI. So first off, the blog post is out, and it goes into detail about what they've actually released. And obviously, one of the major details is that it matches or outperforms GPT 3.5 on most of the standard benchmarks. The other thing too is that it's got details a little bit more about the language that supports being English, French, Italian, German, and Spanish. Unfortunately, no Asian languages or other languages apart from these. And it's also got a lot of the details about the actual model itself. So not surprising. This is a decoder-only model, and what they're actually doing here is they're sharing key parts of the decoder network, and they're actually having the sort of experts in the feed-forward blocks. So at every layer, they have these routed networks. They basically choose 2 of the groups of experts to process the token and then combine this. So this is a diagram showing this concept from the switch transformer. So you can see that you've got the normal self-attention going through of a transformer. So we've got the normal parts of the self-attention and the master of a decoder, part of a transformer going on in here. But then when we get to the feed-forward layers, you get this router system going on where it's going to basically have the experts go through this, and then they joined back together and go to the next layer where again, they share the self-attention and split up for the various experts as it's going through this. So the concept of thinking of as being 8 times 7 billion is a bit misleading. So actually, the mixture has 45 billion parameters in total, but it's only using 12 billion parameters per token. So therefore, you're getting the advantages of having the big model, but not having to use that, and for actually doing the compute and processing it for generating out here. So they mentioned here that the model processes input and generates output at the same speed and cost as a 12 billion model. So for less than double the size of the compute needed for doing the inference, we're able to get a model that's much better performance here. This is a testament to the relentless pursuit of innovation, balancing size, speed, and performance. And that's all that we have for a recap of the biggest AI announcements of 2023. And it's definitely nothing short of extraordinary, with unparalleled advancements in various fields, all made possible by the power of artificial intelligence. And one can only wonder what new horizons AI will unlock. The seeds of innovation planted in 2023 promise a harvest of possibilities. So here's to a year that has redefined what's possible in the realm of AI. Stay curious, stay innovative, and brace yourselves for the wonders that lie ahead. See you in the next one.